Do we see? All right, here we go. Shalom and welcome. Give it about one more minute to get everything live and going. And I did share the link in the YouTube to join us on this Zoom meeting. And I believe this is a very, very important subject, probably one of the most serious ones that we could get into, because this actually is a question and answer. Now, I have invited others from the Had, and if they show up, that's great. I have also questioned or sent questions too, as such. But this is a part of About Yahweh's Business at this point. If they would like to join, or we could do this on another time on occasions, that would be fine as well. But without any further talking, we are going to get busy. We are going to go over the Urim and the Thummim, right? So why does this matter today? Because everything in the scriptures matters. Yahweh does not change. And we're going to go over the scriptures of what it matters to him, why all this matters to us, right? So let's get this party started, shall we? Shalom and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Again, there is a share in Zoom. If you're watching this later, if you want more questions or answers, that's what this is all about. This is to put to rest all calendars, all suspicions, all questions that Yahweh can answer and will answer. So again, any question, any valid question, this goes back to the ancients. Everybody wants to go back to the ancient ways, the ancient times, the ancient everything. So this is those answers. Yes, we still have the Ruach. Yes, Moshe had the Ruach. So this, I believe, is going to be a very, very important study, a very important teaching, if you will, that is going to get us on the same hand, if you will, pun intended, on the same hand of what is what. So for anybody, anywhere, with any calendar, with anything, if you would like to submit it to this, we are open to that as well. We are open to valid questions and not just what a man thinks. So we will get started. Today, we're going to just have a basic introduction of what it is, what we're talking about, and what I believe more is what it's not talking about. What we can prove is not, right? So with all that being said, what you see on the screen is what is, and that's what was used by true scholars, real scholars. Now, what you have to understand, if your man calls himself a rabbi, that does not make him a scholar. A true scholar is someone who knows their Bible, who knows their scriptures, who knows, in my estimation, Paleo-Hebrew. If you don't know Paleo-Hebrew into Aramaic, if you don't know into the Greek, into this, into that, but the true form, what this was written in, was the Paleo-Hebrew, and that's bar none, undisputed, true, on parchment, on deer skin, what Moshe got handed, what Moshe put forth, even on our Dead Sea Scrolls. So again, it ain't to debate any of these things or any of these other things, but what we are, yes, if you would, please post that in there. And what we're going to go over is the ancient biblical ways. But we have to understand from the beginning is there's nothing really new. We want to believe that's new because we have been told there's new things. But if Yahweh doesn't change, then we don't have the newness of the newness, right? So that really gets rid of magicians, different ways of doing things, if that makes sense. The way that people come up and do all these weird things, and they are weird. The world knows they're weird, but only religious sects would even attempt to believe these things, right? So let's go in Exodus 28:30. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim. Urim or Thummim, is this pretty much what the ancients would say, right? If you look this up, then that's what you say. And again, we're not going to worry about the exact pronunciation or all these other things. We're going to worry about the main focus is, what did they do? What did we use? How do we use them? And should we use them today? And at the end of this, I do plan on using these said instruments for exactly what said instruments was intended to do. And any and all input is welcome. Whether you think it's witchcraft or not, then please come and tell us what you think. But understand, you can't call holy profane or unholy, and nothing can make what Yahweh has set forth that. So that's what today's really going to be about, a more describing of, because some people say, oh, well, they use dice, well, they use this, well, they use that, well, they use this, well, they use that. Yes, we can see through history and times and others what they've used, but why and how come and where did that come from? So again, Exodus 28:30. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before Yahweh, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before Yahweh continually. Now, this is where a lot of people say, okay, what's that got to do with me? We're talking about Aaron and Moses. But when we get removed from that mindset, who are we talking about? It's not Aaron and Moses that we make as what, but it's Yahweh. And who said to do this? Yahweh. Leviticus 8:8, and he put on the breastplate upon them. Also, he put in the breastplate the Urim and the Thummim, right? So right here, we see the breastplate. There is many websites, many teachings, many things on this breastplate. It's in Dead Sea Scrolls. It's in many other books, many other places, and of course, the scriptures themselves, right? So what are we looking for here? What are we trying to find? We're trying to find out, what are they? How was they? What did we use? How do we use them? And is it for today? Now here, and this is not trying to sell anything or not trying to show anything other than we have to, but this is one of my books of where we are using. So in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which comes from the Paleo-Hebrew, which is written in the Paleo-Hebrew, is where we get a lot of our answers. More than what a lot of people would like to know about, right? So with all that being said, here is another part of the breastplate. And I have ordered some of these things and got them, and it tells what is very, very interesting is, as with everything else that we go and look at, that these breastplates and their, what's in them, right? What's the translation? So just like the 4 horsemen in Revelations, if we go over that, we see there's how many horses? There's 4. What are their colors? It makes sense. I hope we're tracking. That there's the green horse, the pale horse, the black horse, the red horse, or these different ones. What I would submit is when men get a hold of things, they kind of mess it up, right? And there's 21 councils, 21 of them. I know most people only go under 1 or 2, but there's 21 councils that have changed our scriptures. That's why I believe it's so important to know what they was written in, because nobody upon nobody says the Torah scrolls, the original ones, was written in any other language than Hebrew, and that be it Paleo-Hebrew. If they say anything other than that, they're probably just not correct or uneducated on what that language was, because the pure language at the time was the Hebrew, Paleo-Hebrew, and also known as a script for people that can understand or didn't have to understand, or even young ones, right? And this actually translates to what? Behold hand, behold nail. It's a man, a stick man. Okay. So with all that being said, we have these from the breastplate, and there's going to be more to come. This is just a show and tell, if you will, of what we are going to get ourselves into. And then you have the actual stones that are real stones. Now, this is what I would submit to you is what they used here. And this is what we're going to talk about today, why they use them and why they're the only authorized form that we can use, that anybody else, if we find with something else, what we have to understand is, again, what a lot of people don't realize, Moshe had the Ruach. The people who was making the artifacts had the Ruach. It said that the Spirit of Yahweh was put upon them, and that's how they made the ark. That's how they made these things. That's how they overlaid them, that they wouldn't do it of man, but they would do it of Yahweh. So take away that mindset, the only Ruach came in Pentecost, because if you don't, it's going to get destroyed in this teaching. It's going to, that is going to be destroyed through this teaching very quickly, very easily. So with all that being said, why not dice? Because dice is a pagan form of gambling. It's what the Egyptians did. It's what people have done. So people say, so again, this is all going to be what not to use today. And then we're going to go over what we will use, which we've seen, and why we would use them in such and such a way. And then eventually, let's see if they truly light up and see if we can get an answer. But I would submit it has to be a valid answer or a valid question, because just asking something, that's what the Ruach is for. Or if Yahweh's told us, right? Do I need to be immersed? Yes, you need to be immersed. That's not a valid question. If you haven't been immersed, then yes, you need to be immersed, right? So gambling is one of humans' oldest activities. Dice in particular have drawn attention from scholars in recent study. Dice reveals that truly balanced dice did not really exist until the Renaissance. So what I'm submitting to you from my studies so far, this was always a loaded dice. Get it? It was always a loaded dice in any other way. Why did Yahweh say, do not go to familiar spirits, do not go to tarot people, do not go to familiar spirits, do not go to witches, do not do, all these are written in the Torah, which everybody wants to throw out, because he told you not to do it. And if you throw it all out, then you can do it. You can do it in church. We can do it on the floor. We can do it wherever. We can do whatever device we want to do. And then we can say, whatever led us to do that. So that's what I'm submitting, that these ways was never from Yahweh. And that's why he says, don't do any other thing. He's not saying, don't do what I told you to do, right? This is what a lot of people come up and they say, well, he says, don't do. Yes, he said, don't do that. And he meant don't do that. But he did not mean don't do what I told you to do, right? That would be tripping someone up. Hey, brother, take out the garbage. And when they get to the door, what are you doing? Don't take out the garbage. You just, no, put it back. And then they set it down. You're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you going to leave in the doorway? Get the garbage out of the house. Get the garbage out of the temple. What are you doing? Confusion, chaos. Now you're messing with me, right? Yahweh doesn't mess with his people. He doesn't change. He says, do this. And this is the only authorization, the only thing in scriptures that we see. And I think there's 47 scriptures about these, There's only 7 in our good old 66 book King James Version. Imagine that. But our other devices, our other scriptures that should be in our 88 book Bible scriptures tell us even more of these things. How amazing is that? So they actually loaded the dice. Imagine that. Men would load dice to get an answer, to get a thing back, right? So in the pre-colonial Americas, dice were made to do what? Basically to trick people, right? I mean, it's another form. All this is another form that we see men doing all the time, all through history. Yahweh says, do this. No, I'm going to start a church up and I'm going to do this. And no, I'm going to do this. And no, I'm going to do this, because we don't want to do what he said to do. And so we come up with our own ways and our own devices, and we think that's okay. And most people think it's okay because they don't get struck by lightning. They're not dead. They don't have an instant heart attack. Well, if he did that to everybody, how many people would be here? Crickets, roaches, who would be left, right? We all sin. So we have to be careful with, oh, well, that guy over there. Anyway, let's go on. Native people throughout North America and Mesoamerica constructed dice in a wide variety, such as fruit pits, shells, teeth, or even split reeds or sticks. That's right, folks. Nothing like some good old teeth that we're going to throw around, mark on them. Yep, old Uncle Bobby said that's not divination. That's not familiar spirits. That's not witchcraft. Oh, no. Yes, it is, right? Even fruit pits. Well, they're just seeds of a peach. What if I do? The questions people ask are abounding, are amazing, right? What if I put them on a watermelon seed and I put a yes on this and a no on that? Is that no? It's not okay because it's not authorized. The typical die was curved on one side and flatter on the other side. The 6-sided dice came into the use later and may have been introduced by the good old Europeans. We know it all, and we're going to tell you how it's done, folks. Archaeologists. Now, this is not just made up things. When they dig these things up, and could you imagine some of these people, I don't know, I just couldn't imagine like the Indiana Jones digging up somebody's teeth and seeing a Y or an N on them in whatever language. Wouldn't that be something do you want to carry that home in your pocket? I don't. I mean, anyway, they believe the American dice games had origins in sacred Aztec rituals. So there you go. Most of these things are made up of a sacred, which means a ritual, which means another god, right? They're going to cut off the head of the chicken and use its blood and throw somebody's teeth and say whatever. And it's really their god that's answering them. And we might laugh and think that's ridiculous. But you know what? If you've seen a demon flip over some teeth and do some stuff, you might be a believer in that. I hope you don't. And that's what today is about. This is not a game. It's not a game of playing with things. It's not to make anybody go off into, witchcraft. And I would recommend even some of these books that unless you rip out the first 16 pages, that you don't even participate in them. Now, so if you want to get it on PDF and get to the last 16 pages, just be careful, because some of this is witchcraft. It is. And it's, well, why are we learning? Well, we're not learning it. We've already been taught it. If you've ever played dominoes, dice, you've ever been to a casino, you've ever watched it, participated, or done it yourself, which most people probably have, or they know about, well, that boat sailed. You've already learned the way of the heathen. Now you probably need to know that is the way of the heathen. Makes sense? Instead of, no, I don't believe in teaching witchcraft or anything about it, but once you've already been taught it, you need to know that's what it is. It needs to be a definite, let's not play that game, because people are out doing this. People think they're doing it, and they'll say God or Lord, and that's why I think it's so important. Lord is Baal. If you're playing with Baal, you know what you're doing. If you're playing with some other God, what's his name? That's what I love to ask people, and people get upset. well, what do you mean? There's only, I serve God. Which one? Because that was a valid answer in Egypt. That would have been a valid answer in Yeshua's time. That would have been a valid answer in Moses' time. Was it not? Oh, it was not either. That's ridiculousness. That's just, no, this ain't Rob Dyrdek. This is preaching, teaching the way it should be. It's not nothing to do with that, because Moses even said what? Whom shall I say sent me? And he didn't say I am. He said, I am Yahweh. That was taken out of your Bible in probably about the 19th edition of Let's Change the Bible. But it does not say I am, because if he would have went back and said I am to Dagon, fish god, blood god, sun god, Ra, any of these other things, they probably would have laughed him to scorn. He would have, oh, I am. What? Oh, that's eternal. No, that's not. He has a name, and he called by name, and he set apart his name, and he wanted his name to be known. He didn't go back and say, I am. He went back and said, Yahweh sent me. Right? I know Cecil D. Myers, he gave us the great I Am movie and all that, but it's not a true wholesome thing. And why would the world give us a true wholesome name? It's even in Indiana Jones. What do they call him? Not Yahweh. Right there, right? He's getting ready to go through the temple. He's getting ready to get it. And what do they call him? Jehovah. With a J. It's impossible. There is no J. There was no J then. I'm just saying. I know people get all mad, but there was no J at that time, right? So there was no, right? So, going forward. Yeah, but I am is really not kosher. I am is really not a name. I am is not, that's like saying that you would be in trouble if you said, I am, right? It's the same thing. We can't have raise your hand. Are you here? Who wants to do it? We say I am all the time. You've said it your whole life, and you continue to say it unless you just want to make that not. But we have to be careful even with what we get ourselves into, because it can be something different, right? So moving on. Years priests engage in the game of chance. Now, this ain't just anybody. This is anybody who wanted to participate, right? Anybody that wanted to be a part of this. Now, I want you to notice, focus now. We are getting on to see if they could summon fire in the body of the sacrificial victim. What they was doing is trying to raise the dead, put fire on the dead, all these things that, well, why would they do that? And a lot of us look at this as, oh my gosh, what is this? What is that? But if you had someone who just died, or somebody that died last week, or somebody died whenever, you want them to come back to life, right? You ever seen Pet Cemetery? I mean, if you want somebody to come back, I know I'm throwing all this junk in there, but that's what all this is a form of witchcraft. It's a form of, I want that person to come back, and I'm going to use any means necessary to at least get a word from them or to get something. So I hope what you're seeing, what I'm saying, it's not a word from the Creator. It's not from Yahweh. It's not even an answer from Yahweh. It's, I want Aunt Sarah to come to life. And if I can't get Aunt Sarah to come to life, can Aunt Sarah answer my question? And all these roads in between, right? That is the discernment. That's the knowledge. That's what's going on. So, sticks. People say, well, let's draw sticks. Well, we can't draw sticks because sticks is another part of witchcraft. It's what they did. It's what they picked off trees. It's how they did these things. It's another part of that, right? The sticks used to tally the weeks of the calendar were bundled up and tossed as a part of a ritual. Unsurprisingly, the priests rigged the game by making sure the fire would start. The sun symbolism, i.e. Ra, R-A, again, why there is no unnamed God as a part to what their God, right? The sun symbolism and sticks found in many pre-colonial America's dice games suggest that the games may have begun with this ritual. So again, you can't make something that's unclean, unholy, holy. So if it started as a ritual, a pagan ritual, another god ritual, all these sort of things, then it's not what we can promote. It's not something that Yahweh would promote, right? So whether you play dice or not, or whether you go to the casino, or whether you do these things, but just knowing where they're coming from. And the main point I want to make is we can't use them, right? We can't bring something in that is tainted. We can't bring something in that says that started as a pagan thing. And I know many people will say different things here, but if it started as a pagan thing, it's probably going to end up as a pagan thing, right? You can't sacrifice a chicken and say, well, I'm going to do it into, you can say that, you can do that, but you are not really doing that. Why do witches ride brooms? Another pun, but really witches, sticks, brooms, drawing sticks, all these things. So another thing is smudging. There's all kinds of ways. And what I'm trying to do is X out, if you will, all these other ways of doing things to show you sticks are not a way that we can do it. Dice is not a way we can do it. And many people think that you can use these, or we've been taught these, right? We went over the other day about how do you pick something and how you say it. Even that wording is a part of that, right? It's actually talking to a pagan goddess. Now, nothing that you can do or say is going to make that okay, or make that clean, or make that a way to get an answer from the creator, right? Pick of this and pick of that. It ends with mo, and I'm not even going to say that, right? And if you get what I'm saying, because these things given to another can upset the creator, but I guarantee you it's not going to get an answer from him. He's not going to answer something of a pagan nature. Now, you might get a Beliar, you might get a demon, you might get, if you look under them or over them, there's a list of demons. Solomon, in the book of Solomon, sealed demons and had demons and talked with demons. So it's not a strange thing or a thing that we don't know about. He talked with demons and asked them, who was your power? Who is over you? Which angel is over you? So according to scriptures and according to these books, these demons had bosses, right? So if you have this demon, there's a boss over this demon, and only that angel can stop that demon. Of course, Yahweh's above all, but that demon has a leadership role. And if you're empowered by the Ruach and you have angels watching over you, then those demons can't come in contact with you. So, but when you grab some dice, or you grab some sticks, or you grab this, or you grab Aunt Sarah's teeth, guess what? Now the demon, you're asking him. That angel has been set apart, and he may not even be able to defend you or come to your aid because you have took it upon yourself to play with Aunt Sarah's teeth. And that ritual and the sin of ignorance or the sin of not knowing, it's still you're opening a door, right? You ever open the door to somebody in the bathroom? You ever open the door to something like, you open the door, there they are. It doesn't matter what was behind there. It doesn't matter you didn't know it wasn't there. It still happened, right? So if you open the door and there's the toilet, there's the toilet. Don't be upset. It's a toilet, right? I mean, where's the bathroom? What do you expect is going to be in there? You see what I'm saying? And I don't think we live this way, or we've been taught this way with Harry Potter with all these nasty, horrible things that the children are catching and doing, or even people are playing games with, right? In a sense, many pagans try to honor their ancestry and ancestors. We even see that a lot of the ancestry, what is called Indians, right? A lot of their background stems from one or the other. Now, I'm not going to say all of them because we have rocks of Yahweh in New Mexico from Indians, from true tribal Indians. So I'm not going to say all of them didn't keep the feast. I'm not going to say they didn't go against that, but some did. And when you get generational curses, generational things, I think that's what's wrong with America. America has come to the point of all of our forefathers played all kinds of stupid games and said, in God we trust, which one? And said, we're going to go to church, but didn't have the true Elohim. They didn't have the true Yahweh. And without the name, without the power, without everything being in order, you're slowly but surely losing something. And then when you start bringing in pathos, pagan things, and I mean, how many people think it's okay to do this? How many times have we seen people whittling wood? Why would we whittle wood? Why would we do these things? Well, and again, this is nothing to try to say that if you've ever whittled wood that you did something outrageous. It's to let you know that the sticks, picking off these things of where they came from. So this is named for, and you can read it for yourself, the Celtic god. And this again is all about who you serve, whom you serve, what his name is. Are you going to follow what he said to do? Or are you doing what others said to do? So if you're doing dice, picking sticks, what else have we went over? Riding brooms, teeth, all these things that are, I would even be careful of what it is. If this is ivory, that is a form of a tooth just from an animal, right? So that's why he says what he says. And we have to have and make sure what we're doing and make sure it's corrected. So the Celtic god and the literacy, staves carved with the alphabet has become the popular thing. So we see when we start drawing on sticks and things, why do you think that he said these are idols? Why did he say not to do what the heathen do? Why do you think the scriptures tell us these things? And for the most part, a lot of us are like, I just don't understand what's going on. Why does he keep saying this stuff? Why does it keep saying not to do this? And we see this in many different cultures, right? Now, this is not saying arrows are bad. Don't get me wrong. I love it. Oh my gosh, we carved an arrow. No, what you're doing with it. If you're doing something for protection, you're doing something to shoot a deer, you're doing something to get food, right? It all makes sense. It has to make sense. But if you're carving a piece of wood and writing Aunt Sarah's name on it, or putting markings on it, or putting Celtic markings on it, just know what you're getting yourself into. And you cannot, again, the whole point, the main point is we can't use these because of where they come from and their origin. Everything's about the origin. The origin of Yahweh, I am Yahweh, I'm the creator. The origin of Yeshua, from the beginning, the word was with us. The word was made flesh. So it's not the origin of anything other. That makes sense? Let's go on. Let's see. 5 more that were added later on. Each corresponds to a letter or sound, as well as a tree or wood. In addition, each of these symbols has come to be associated with the various meanings and elements of the human experience. So a lot of what we see here is what? What we see going on, what we see happening, what we see, right? So people get upset, people get mad, and because they don't believe the truth, they don't want to hear it. But that doesn't matter, right? I mean, just because you believe that this and that and what you've heard, that's the problem. Our problem, I would submit, is because we want to believe what Pastor Fred says. Pastor Fred told us, and what gets me is Pastor Fred says, from Moses to this, and he preaches all his sermon on Moses and the law of Moses and not to kill, not to commit adultery, don't kill. 30 minutes he goes about not killing and not committing adultery. And then he turns around and tells his congregation, the law is done away with. The law, the name, everything, you just call upon whom you want to call upon or call upon this J guy that didn't exist, right? So, I mean, I know it hurts people's feelings. I know people get upset, but if we don't do things the correct and right way, then it's just not doing it the correct and right way. And that's what it really boils down to. So again, all of this is this ain't for everybody anyway. This is for people, probably leaders, probably the ones who want an answer from Yahweh. You know, this is not just for the average person who can't get the Torah itself, that can't get past most things to begin with. And again, it's a good teaching, I believe, that we should know, that we should learn. And this is what they even used, even stones, right? So you can make anything unclean. You can make almost anything unclean, right? Don't get me wrong that you can take and paint on a cup and make the cup, you know, you write on it some other name or some other God or some other whatever, then that's what you're going to get. But we have to go with the truth and what we know is pure truth. Now, again, pagan, and a lot of this, again, it's not to promote any of these things, but it's to let us know we can't use sticks, we can't use stones of dead people, we can't carve dead people's names. The only authorized way is what Yahweh says. We have Exodus, Leviticus, we have Numbers that he says on how to do this. We see here a cross and the little, what I call the little baby thing, because it looks like a little baby pacifier. But we see the world uses these things. If you've seen any of these people, what is it, Miley Cyrus, I think, and some of these people, they carry these and they put these on necklaces. Well, what's that got to do with it? Because some people think they can take a cross. They're just taking this little piece off the cross or putting it upside down, whatever they do with it, right? That's not my problem. Whatever they do with these things, and they're making that, I'm going to ask and get an answer. So I would submit to you, who you're going to get an answer from is who you're talking to, right? You're talking to a sun god or another foreign identity, right? Not the true Yahweh. And this is the main thing. And this is why it's so important. And I don't know why people get so upset about that, but if you want an answer and you really need an answer, and it's a really righteous answer that you're searching for, why wouldn't you ask Yahweh? Why is there a debate? Why is there, you know what I'm saying? Why do we have to pacify and do things that I don't think you're looking for the answer. I think you're looking for something else. I think you're looking for, you know what I'm saying? You're trying to cloud up the water to get your calendar to be right. You're trying to promote something that just isn't what it should be. That makes sense, right? So we're not careful. This is where we get ourselves into problems of not having the right answer. So we've been so duped, if you will. We've had so much Sunday school. We've had so many other gods and so many other ways of them gods, whether we knew it or not, right? That we have been taught such terrible, terrible things that we just don't get it. But when we've learned these things, again, not to learn these things, but to know the origins, the past, the products, and who use them. So when you see all these practices and all the ways that they did things, they even buried people with these, right? Then that's probably, they're probably not thinking, of where they're going, or they're not looking of what we know as the true belief or the true religion, right? And as you see here, the ancient Egyptian religion. And that's where we see Yahweh came along and destroyed them. So we'll go over this real quick. And again, this is not to promote any of this. It's just to let anyone know, if they're playing with coins, if they're playing with brooms, if they're playing with broomsticks, that's hay, that's just the end of a broom, right? And people will pluck them out. These are all deviation, these are all different spirits. We're only looking for the spirit of Yahweh. And that's why I want to make clear. That's why I'm not going to back down off of that, because we're looking for the Ruach of Yahweh. Any other is not what the answer, or not we want the answer from, right? So ancient Egyptian deities are the gods and goddesses worshipped in the ancient Egypt. The beliefs and rituals, again, rituals is what we're talking about, surrounded these gods and formed the core of their ancient Egypt religion. I'm Yahweh, and I will share my glory with no one. So there's no way, no how that he's going to let us pick up sticks or pick up dice or pick up poor Aunt Sarah's teeth. And I don't know why you'd want to, but some people want to pick up Aunt Sarah's teeth and mark on them and put Greek on them or this on them or whatever, right? But we should not do these things, beloved, which emerged sometime in prehistory. And again, we see the pottery, and they put things together. We act like these people are cave dwellers and stupid. But the Egyptians, just like other people, was not a stupid, ignoramus people. They made paintings. They carved in walls. They made what you can see here, right? This isn't just something that a little child does, that they was doing things and putting them together. But the things that they was putting together and recommending or promoting was deities, other gods. And they represented natural forces and phenomenon, right? They had ways of thinking that they would ask their gods. If you ain't ever seen Risen, I would ask that you've seen Risen. Go watch Risen. Go watch one of these movies and see they was talking to their gods by name. That's why it's so important, right? It's so important that when they go talk to their God by name, what we have to understand is their God or their deity or their demon may answer them, right? People say, well, I've done this and I got an answer. I've done this. I'm not debating that. I'm not saying your demon didn't answer you. I'm not saying your God didn't answer you. I'm not saying that you didn't have a form, spirit, whatever. But what I'm saying is, Scripture says for us not to do the way of the heathen, not to do and not to follow what they've done. So therefore, again, that's what this is all about. Part 2, we're going to get into what we should do, how we should do it, and further, right? But this is a part of what we cannot participate in. And this is why you see people like Brad or Fred or Henry or Sarah, and they get upset or they want an answer so bad that they pull the broomstick out and they start plucking things and they start praying to whomever God will answer them. And because something answered them, then what do? Now they have faith. Now they believe. Now they know they got an answer. And because it's the answer they wanted to hear, see, that's the difference. The enemy will tell you, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely on track. Those other people are full of it. Those other people are egotistics. Those other people, but the Ruach will flat tell you, you're wrong, humble yourself, here's the right way. You may not like that, and many don't. The Egyptians supported and appeased them through offerings. What do we see? Now, since it's just us, I'm going to tell you like it is. A lot of these churches accept tithes and offerings. They're taking money of the people and they're stealing from people. Would a man rob God? Yes, and they are. A lot of these places that say they are serving a God are serving a God, whatever they call him, whatever they support. But a lot of it is really what? Mammoth or greed or their way of doing, right? What church do you know other than government appointed? I'm trying not to get myself in trouble. Other than a government appointed church, which receives money for doing these things, actually give out money or give out food or hand out things to people. They say what? Go to the government, go to this, go to that. But the scriptures clearly tells us, the rich man and the beggar, that we are supposed to do what? Help those in need, to do those for those things who can't. So I would submit to you that we see over and over and over, they're doing what they want to do the way they want to do it, and they're doing the same things they've always done since Egypt and beforehand, right? After the founding of the Egyptian state around 3100 BC, the authority to perform these tasks was controlled by the pharaoh, who claimed to be the god's representative and managed the temples where the rituals were carried out. Now, this is a very big thing, and I think it has everything to do with this study. This ain't about somebody being a supernatural guru or a god or a pharaoh or any of that. This is hearing from Yahweh. Now, I want that to be clear. This is not a hearing from because this guy here or that guy there. This is what Yahweh set forth to answer the questions and let it be known that Yahweh has spoken. Make sense? Let's go on. The God's complex characteristics were expressed in myths and intricate relationships between deities, family ties, loose groups, hierarchies, and combinations of separate gods into one. Deities, diverse appearances in art, animals, humans, objects, combinations of indifferent forms also alluded through symbolism to their essential features. So again, whatever they used. So for example, right, their God or their pharaoh or their rabbi or their whatever got this title. And as this title, they could say, hey, grab me that witch's broom and let's start picking sticks. And whoever gets the highest stick or the lowest stick or whatever you see what happens. And when you start doing that, that's where you start having the true difference and where it's called witchcraft and not an answer from Yahweh. What they should have done is went to Yahweh, but because they thought they were gods, they didn't think they had to answer or fall under Yahweh. And we see the same thing today. And this is why I would propose your average, everyday Christian, believer, messianic, the way, whatever you want to call it, whatever they want to call themselves, I should say, would never, ever get an answer. This would never, ever light up because they don't follow. They are too stuck in Sunday church, this man, this man. They don't really want to hear the answer. They already have the answer. That makes sense? Most people already have the answer they want. Hence why they had the lotus dice, why they picked sticks, and this one would catch fire, right? Now, you have to understand, that's some pretty powerful stuff if you don't know what's going on, right? If you're not looking behind the curtain and this so-called priest is over here with a lit stick in his hand, we know today there's matches. We know today there's phosphorus. We know today you can strike two rocks together and get a fire, flint. But obviously they didn't. This guy's back here doing this and his stick lights a fire. Woo! It's like one of those movies. Whoa. Well, that must be the answer because he's the only one with the lit stick in his hand, right? Nobody knew he had a bic under his sleeve. Just joking. In different eras, various gods were said to hold the highest position in divine society, including the solar deity. This one's still around today. Believe it or not, this sun god is who I believe most Sunday churches are worshiping, and that's why they don't have this power. They don't know the Ruach. They don't know the true power from Yahweh because they don't accept it. They accept what they see, they accept what they've heard, and essentially they're a parrot doing what a parrot does. Polly wants to go to church. Polly wants to be in the choir. And I'm not knocking them whatsoever. It's not a hateful, meaningless. Many people, as I, have come out of that. But nonetheless, we've come out of that. Why? Because we've seen there's something wrong. This is why I do not say amen. And I say so be it, unless I'm really pressured to. And at that, I will try to say anything but this, right? Because there is a God, because, and this is his name, which most people pronounce as what they say at the end of their prayer or the end of their service. And this is why I say, so be it, Selah. And that's what even they said before they said to their God, Ra. They would say, you ever seen the shows? You ever seen, what's that guy? I can't remember his name right now. I just thought of it. The one that says, let it be so. The one that played in these movies. Let it be so. Let it be written. That's what they said. That's how they said it. Not, this is to another deity. And I know people will get upset. And I don't mean that when I say that. And I'm not who I'm talking to. But what does it mean to the Father? If this wasn't until 2nd century BC, whatever, then what is this saying? This is saying what? This is who you're talking to. Now, again, get upset, send bad messages, whatever, but the truth hurts. The mother goddess is a major goddess characterized as a mother of fertility. And this is what we hear today. Who are we fighting against? Are we really fighting against that? Or is that just to get us to say this name? Because we've been fighting against this in Pakistan and Uzbekistan and Afghanistan ever since 7-Eleven Slurpee Man, right? Was a major goddess in ancient Egyptian religion who worshiped spread throughout the Greco-Roman world. And this is where I come to a problem of Greek and Roman and the Greek language. Because the Greek language was never authorized by the Creator. He never told Moses, hey, in your spare time, brother, make you a Greek thing because there's going to become a day when the church and this and this and this. No. As far as we know, and as far as we can see, and the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is right here, what we see written. If I can find my book. The Dead Sea Scrolls, every one of them that we see, when we look at the front or the back, are written in the Paleo Hebrew. Now, people will say that's not true or whatever they want to say. But if that's not true, then why on the front and the back of the Paleo Hebrew, where'd he go? He's running around here somewhere. But why in the front and the back of the books themselves call themselves the Dead Sea Scrolls have that written on them, just like the scrolls right here, right? These are the parchment, the Torah scrolls. This is what Moshe wrote on. And the whole point is to bring this to and to bring us through the truth. We're going to go over one more, and then we'll probably shut this one down. And next week, we're going to go over more of what we should do. But again, I think it's very important we know where the sticks, the dice, what they was a form of, what they was used for. And again, not to promote them in any way, not to promote these things, not to promote anything, but to demote, to let people know, don't let your kids sit out there and play, throw the dice and talk to their familiar friend who's dead or the child that died. And then when he comes in and says, hey, Fred's been dead for 6 months. What's wrong with you, child? Familiar spirits. And then act like the child's just crazy or there's something wrong with him, right? The highest deity was usually credited with the creation of the world. Now, this is another one why I think we need to know. And people get upset and they lose their minds and get mad and do whatever, but that's immature, right? To me, to grow and to learn, and if you can sit down and talk about Paul or talk about this or talk about that, then you have immaturity if you can't see what's written. These are facts. This is history. And I believe we can use history to prove our Bible. And we can use history to prove what we should and shouldn't be doing and what they was and wasn't doing, right? I think it all works together. He's not asking us. A lot of Christian religion, what their problem is, I'll tell you, they're in a made-up fairy tale world. They believe in things that they're told, but they take verses out and they watch movies, which is great. There's nothing really, really, really wrong with Cecil D. DeMeyer's account of Moses. But then again, there really, really, really is, because he said, I am. And because the world thinks, because they watched Charleston Heston stand on a set and get tablets from a man, that's the actual account of what happened, because they never read their Bible and they don't know Paleo Hebrew, and they listen to somebody else tell them what happened there. And that's where it becomes a problem. And that's where it becomes, if you won't listen to the simplest of answers and you won't listen to the Ruach on the answer, you're never, ever, ever going to hear from the Urim and Thummim. You're never, ever, I don't believe he's even going to present that. I don't think, you know what I'm saying? Unless it's something that he's proven himself to you, then why would he show you these things? So I think this is why he told the priest, and the priest did it. And the people had their choice where they listened or they followed whatever they wanted to. But knowing when they followed whatever they wanted to, this is what drove them to that, right? So again, the creation of the world, we should know without a doubt who created the world, Yahweh. And again, that's crediting the creator. If Brother Steve created a pot and gave it to me, and this was my bean pot, and I ate beans every week on the Sabbath in my bean pot, the correct thing would say, Brother Steve made me this bean pot. And in honor of him, here it is, right? That's only worthy. So to say any other deity created the world, are you not saying, and it sounds good, oh God, or oh this, or oh that, or oh, but when you discredit or make not his name, what I would submit you is doing, if we know better than doing that, and if you don't buy all that, well, next time you get a check, go cash it and have your little child sign it. And see if the bank doesn't stop it, hold it, cancel it, and ask you if there's something wrong with you. And better yet than that, have them sign it in blue or purple crayon, and then take it and watch what happens. They might call the law on you, right? because they're going to say, what in the world is this person doing? But that's what I submit that a lot of these so-called churches are trying to do. They're trying to present the creator that they want to be, the creator that they have up here, the creator that they can present, right? Hence the baby. The baby's not intimidating, right? The little baby don't hurt anybody. The little baby's good for all. But I think we know the lion, isn't it written, accept the lamb or receive the lion or something to that extent? So let's go on. And often connected with the life-giving power of the sun. And if you ever seen the sun energy drinks and you turn them, you're putting down the sun. There's a lot into what they're doing, folks. A lot of us don't catch it, or a lot of times we don't catch it. There's life and everything's going on, but let's go on. Some scholars have argued, based in part on Egyptians' writing, that the Egyptians came to recognize a single divine power that lay behind all things and was present in the other deities. Yet they never abandoned their original polytheistic view of the world, except possibly during the era of atheism in the 14th century, when the official religion focused exclusively on abstract solar deity. So again, it's like some of these people change gods like people change underwear, right? It's like, well, that God didn't answer me, so I'm going to go answer this God. And they did. There was 10 different gods that was their main thing, right? So there was 10 different gods that they came to. And that's what Exodus is really all about, is these other gods and destroying these gods and getting rid of these gods. So with all that being said, do you think he's going to let us take any of these other gods or any of these other foreign ways that would come to be a part of what he said? I would suggest to you that the answer would be undoubtedly, no, he will not. So we will close down that, get back to our other little pretty picture here, and do one or two more verses of what he had put into order. And when Saul had inquired of Yahweh, Yahweh answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by the Urim, nor by the prophets. So what happens when we don't present a valid answer, when we're not living correctly, when we're doing things that are worldly? Yahweh's not going to promote that. You can have the calendar that you want, you spent your life on, you spent your days on, that you've done whatever with. But if Yahweh is not the promoter or the originator of that calendar, you wasted a lot of time. You wasted a lot of effort. You wasted a lot of things. So what does that mean? Exactly. I mean, the part of what we are trying to find out is what's true and what isn't, what's holy and what's profane. And by default, if it's not set apart, then it's not set apart. There can't be 27 calendars. There just can't be. It's impossible, right? And I don't believe that he lets us stay in error. I don't believe, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, when he comes back, he's going to tell me. But on my perspective of that is, hey, go mow the yard, child. And when I get home from work, the yard better be mowed. And you come home, the kid's in there on the PlayStation, laughing, giggling, kicking chips to the floor, got Pepsi all over. And you walk in and you're like, what in the world have you done? And where did you buy this garbage? My rules was no more Pepsi. Do you know what was in it? You explained 10 years ago what's in Pepsi. I explained to you why you're not going to do this. And now, on top of it all, I said, don't, to mow the yard. and you're sitting in here in the yard still undone. Well, why wouldn't a good father just say, oh, potato chips? That's funny, child. No, it's a disobedience. And to come to the Creator with disobedience is a form of witchcraft. You see where that's going, I hope, right? To come to him with any other way than what he said is a form of witchcraft. And to think that he's going to say over and over and over and over and over, there's more Sabbath, Sabbath in Scripture than almost anything, especially in the Torah. Remember my Sabbath day and keep it holy. There can't be an error. There is no room, because you know as well as I do, if you came home, that child's doing that, you're going to be upset, and rightfully, you should be upset. The child disobeyed you, didn't do the work, the service you told him to. You wouldn't say that's okay. And the child laughs in your face and says, you never taught me how to mow the yard. How hard is it? You push the lawnmower. You ride the lawnmower. You don't say, you're right. I didn't explain to you how to mow the yard. You wouldn't say that. None of us would, unless they was too young to even mow the yard. And then it's not even the point. But if that child was old enough, well enough to do that yard, see where I'm going? He's not going to say it's okay. My feast days, even though I said over and over and over, don't worry about them. My calendar, even though I said on every new moon and every full moon to come and meet with me, even though I told you that, is that not the same, if not worse than coming and telling that child, it's okay? And then you come in again, or you make it a deal, right? On every 14th of the month, I want you to mow the yard. And then you'll probably get a paying for it. You'll probably get something out of it, correct? Or you just won't get a beating. However your household did things, right? But you have to be within the will. You have to be within that rightness, right? And to be what it's supposed to be. So I never got taught to mow no yard, I don't think. I got taught there's a lawnmower, get busy. Some people don't get taught to swim. They get thrown in the water. They don't get taught. But with all that being said, that's what all this is about, right? To being taught the right way. The only difference is who's the right one, who's speaking truth, who's doing it because I want a plaque, I want something, I'm doing it for men-made traditions or men-made honor, or doing it because Yahweh said through the Ruach to do so. And this is what this is all about, right? This is truly about this. It's about, if we don't know, we are going to inquire of Yahweh himself, and he's going to teach us himself, or what's going to happen, right? So we have to do what we're told to do. Nehemiah 7:65, and Toshitha said unto them that they should not eat of the most holy things till there stood up a priest with the Urim and the Thummim. So there you go. So we went over, recap. We went over, we can't play with brooms. We can't play with witches. We can't call upon other gods. We can't use Aunt Sarah's teeth. We don't use sticks. We don't use dice. We don't use other devices, as we just went over. And why? Because their origins are pagan deities, gods, whatever you want to call them, right? That's their origin. This origin, as we see, is biblical, scriptural, from many, at the very least, 7 scriptures. At the very bare minimum is 7 scriptures, right? And we also see how it was used and who used it. And they wasn't even supposed to do what? They wasn't even supposed to eat of these things until they had an answer. So the priest wouldn't even answer, right? The priest is not going to say, well, you know what? Go ahead, eat it. Because he didn't want to be struck dead by Yahweh. He didn't want to be disobedient of Yahweh. He didn't want to lose his priestly position, right? He didn't want Yahweh to say, next, that guy is an imposter. He's done something of his own account. And that's where we had to be very careful in going forth with this. We're not doing something of our own account. We have found a problem, a glitch, if you will. And I don't think it's a problem, honestly. I don't see it that way. I see that a lot of people have come up with a lot of man-made traditions. And I'm just going to, spit the truth, if you will, from my perspective. A lot of calendars are not biblical in various ways. They're not biblical. There's no evidence of biblical. We can go to Greece and we can go to here and we can go to that and we can talk. But I think the scriptures are pretty clear in what we see. And I think the Yarek is in there various times on this. But Yahweh willing, we can use this for the whole world to see of what will happen, right? So that is going to conclude part 1. And I'm not even going to name or how far this is going to go, because we have the priestly garments, if you will. We have the breastplate. We have many books, pamphlets, writings, and things still to come on this. But this is just to touch and go over, because I know as soon as you start this, people are going to say, can I use dice? Can I use sticks? Can I use my broom? Can I use Harry Potty? Can I wave a wand? Can I do this? Can I do that? And they're going to tell what they've used or what they're going to use or what they're going to do and right? So, etc., etc., etc. But I hope that has gotten rid of many of those other ways, right? Harry Potty, because I don't even like, yeah. So, again, if there's any questions, of course, comments or anything on this subject, but we are going to try to get this down to a stone, right? As we see here that, and we're going to ask, I think, right now, Yahweh willing, because some people, like myself, when I first started this, think the white stone is the yes, and the black stone is the no. But after review, and according to this, it's just the opposite. That the black is the yes, and the white is the no. And that's what is written on these, right? The Urim and the Thummim. So, with all that being said, unless we find drastic, unprovable measures, which we might, right? So we have to have the proof. So my first question, I believe, is the yes be yes and the no be no. And whichever the yes is, will light up. And that, as far as right now, Yahweh willing, will be the first question. And then we and the whole world can see what the yes truly is, because we don't see it in these scriptures just of yet. Now, I will review more scriptures. I will go over more scriptures, and I will try to find that. But I think that is a valid answer, or valid question, if you will, right? All right. Yes. Now, again, these are going to be rocks. Rocks, stone. Stones, rocks, right? There is no lit up things. And I don't think these are the ones I'm going to use to be actual. These are just the ones to show. But the ones I'm going to use, I will show you later. Cliffhanger, like a commercial break, right? The ones I'm going to use, I will show you later, maybe next time or the time after when we go over more of what we're going to do. But as of now, that I believe is a true valid question before we even get to the calendar question that we ask, which one is yes, and present that. So whatever that gets to, we have plenty of material. We have the Oracle of Yahweh. We have the Temple Scroll. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. All these things like a little small library that we are going to go over. And amazingly, just like the Temple Scroll, it's in Paleo Hebrew, right? Down, up. I can't see my camera when I put it in front of me, so I don't know. I do have a monitor that shows me, but when I put something big in front of it, I can't see it as good. And again, we have stuff on the way, stuff that we have here, all kinds of goodies. A couple, 2 or 3 of the Dead Sea Scrolls themselves. This is an amazing find. Not the Dead Sea Scrolls, which it is, but the things that I found in the Dead Sea Scrolls on this is amazing, amazing thing, I believe. I think this is going to set people, some people are going to be mad and upset, of course, and some people are going to be blown away. I myself just blows me away that it's what is going on there, what I've seen. So I hope you tune in. Yes, 2 p.m., 1 p.m. Central Time every Sabbath until probably at least 4 weeks from what I'm thinking. It's probably going to take about 4 weeks to go through these materials. Next week, we're going to pick it up and we're going to actually go over probably the breastplate and the lights and the perfection. That's what they're known as. They're the lights and the perfection. Why? Because you need the light and you need perfection. You need to know the answer. And there's many more than just a yes or no. So hope it's edified. I hope it's helped. Till next time, may Yahweh bless you. May his kindness shine upon you, and may he grant you shalom. Shalom, everybody. Thank you very much for listening and for watching. And please tune in next week. And please come and watch and see which one will tell us the answers that we are